Jesus 911.
Dan, let me ask you a question. On the Liber Christo website, do they have the protocol there? Is it up on? Do you know if it's up on any?
I think it is.
Because as we mentioned, the protocol, people are trying to say, what is the protocol? So I guess you're looking it up right now. But can you tell the audience what is the protocol, and why did Kyle and Father Ripperger and others, why did they come up with this to give to a person who's potentially possessed? Why was this necessary to establish this prayer protocol for the potential possessed people? I mean, in times past, don't you just bring him into a priest who knows how to pray healing and deliverance, and they just beat the demon out with prayers without the cooperation of the possessed person? I mean, why is it so necessary to put the potentially spiritually afflicted person through this medical protocol? I mean, just can't a charismatic priest with the grace that he has of his ordination and the charismatic gifts, can't he just drive out the demon, period, and be done with it?
Yeah, several things. One, the basically the protocol prayers at the 4-phase protocol. Everybody goes through the same phases. The first phase is 30 days, 30 consecutive days. You're going to pray the Exilium Christianorum prayers, which is on the webpage, and the Angelus 6, 12, and 6. 6 a.m., noon, and 6 p.m. And then you're going to add a couple prayers if you've been baptized and confirmed, but more or less, those are the prayers you're going to pray. You're going to restrict your spiritual diet to only reading the scripture readings for today. You're going to cut back all other devotions other than the scripture readings for the day. If you're praying the rosary in the first phase, we'll let you continue to pray the rosary. But basically, we're going to get into a spiritual central deprivation, because what this does is it helps to flush out the psychological from the spiritual. So what we're finding is that was again, this is developed by Father Ripperger and Kyle Clements. It helps. The first 30 days is not curative. It's not meant to bring deliverance, because the person that comes to us is just petitioning for help. They're usually not in a state of grace. They're in this mess because they've fallen away from God's grace. They've fallen into mortal sin. And so the first 30 days they're diagnostic for us, and it gives us an indication if there's a psychological component, if it's a low level, we can actually chart it and tell you more or less where they're at. If it's oppression, obsession, possible possession, it'll smoke out any extraordinary diabolic activity. It'll also smoke out if it's psychological. Before we developed the protocol, we worked different protocols, and what we would find is we're chasing our tail. The demon would just send psychological cases, and we would be spending hours and hours every week praying for cases that are just bipolar. They're just have mental health problems, and we would deplete all of our resources, all of our energies, of our priestly time, etc. So what this does, it gives us this diagnostic reading, but at the same time, it begins to strengthen the will. This is like that TV show, My 600-Pound Life, right? If you watch that show, they don't just say, oh, you want to lose 300 pounds? No problem. Let's do surgery. Because why? If you just take that 600-pound person and do surgery, they've yet to form the habits, right? Dietary habits, exercise habits, and their body could not sustain physically. You run the risk of harming them worse, and they might die from the surgery because they're just not physically healthy enough. So by making them lose and get under a certain weight, their bodies are now strong enough and they develop the habits to sustain healthy living. That principle in nature, we know it to be true, is also true in the spiritual life. We've got to get souls in the spiritual state of grace. We got to get them spiritually lean and in shape so that they can handle the spiritual battle that's coming up. So the first 30 days is not meant to just drive demons out. The 30 days is to give us a diagnostic to find out where we're at, but also starting to prepare the soul for metanoia. Without metanoia or conversion, liberation is impossible. We know from Scripture, Christ's words himself, the demon leaves, he comes back sevenfold when he finds the house swept clean, because the soul is not ready to keep the doors locked. He lets them back in, and their condition is worse than the first. So what we see is a growth.
I like what you said.
What's that?
You said the first. I like what you said. You said the first 30 days are curative.
They're diagnostic, not necessarily curative.
Okay, diagnostic. Oh yeah,
Right.
or the first 30 days are not curative. They're diagnostic. They're not
Right.
curative.
And this is why we refer to the individual as a petitioner. Once they roll and they completed the 30 days, they've proven that their will is strong enough at least to be disciplined. And we do find many liberations are happening just by doing a 30-day protocol. If it's an oppression level spirit or situation, it'll clear out if the soul is in a state of grace. But when they go into phase 2, this is when we use the freedom through Christ, which is a Catholic liberation approach. And we have videos of Father Ripperger and Kyle, a workbook that they work through, and they start to identify areas in their life that grace is being occluded, where there's blockages or obeses to grace. Where is their unconfessed mortal sin? People come in and they say, oh, I want a pill. I want to see the exorcist. I want to be free because I want to sleep. I'm tired of hearing the voices, etc. It doesn't work that way. It takes a long time of conversion. If you've got unconfessed mortal sin and you're completely unrepentant in it, God's not going to deliver you. You have to do your part and grow. Ultimately, Father Gabriel Amorth says, the chief exorcist of the Diocese of Rome, who passed away last year, all exorcism, he says, ultimately is self-deliverance. And so at times the church will step in through the parish priest or through the exorcist, but mostly self-delivering, starting in phase 2 through the sacrament of confession. And now in phase 2, we're starting to reintegrate the soul, not just away. Remember, freedom is freedom from the diabolic sin, but freedom for reintegration into the mystical body. So in phase 2, I'm now contacting and staying in contact with their pastor. Father, this is what's going on. We're going to be sending them to you for confession. This is what we're seeing, etc. So phase 2 now, they're working at reintegrating sacramentally. Because remember, our definition of liberation is it's reconciliation with God the Father through Christ and through the sacraments of the church. So this is what we're doing and working in phase 2.
All right, we'll continue talking about liberation, Catholic style. Our Soul Patrol, helping people of God save souls and slay error. We're talking.